Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here tonight. Before I call the meeting to order, I'm going to invite Tim Rose up from First Priority. Tim is going to lead us in our invocation. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Let's pray. King Jesus, we come before you and we are grateful and honored to be in your presence. God, we're grateful that we have the opportunity to come and to meet and discuss all the many things of our city. Lord, I want to pray over this meeting, that, Lord, the decisions we made in accordance with your will. God, we also want to lift up to you all of those students who are heading back into class. God, we want to pray for this year for the students, that they would learn what they need to learn. God, for the teachers and administrators in all of our schools. God, that they'll be deeply blessed, that they'll have rich and fulfilling years. And then, Lord, I would also love to pray that each and every person in our town would not only gain knowledge this year, but would gain knowledge and faith of you. And God, we're grateful that we can do everything through you because you made all things. We pray this all in your name. Amen.
Amen. Tim, thank you so much. At 6 p.m. on Tuesday, August the 11th, I'd like to call to order the Weatherford City Council meeting. Announce we do have a quorum present. All city council members are present this evening. Thank you for your service. Item 3 on the agenda is pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags. Will be led this evening by Council Member Matt Tiskus.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Matt, thank you for that. Item 4 on the agenda is items of community interest. We welcome Aaron Spicer.
Mayor and Council, tomorrow marks the return of backpacks, school lunches, and trying to remember where everyone goes before 8 a.m. With school back in session, summer's coming to a close, but things keep moving along in Weatherford. Set your alarm clocks and get your RU gear ready. WISD students head back to class Wednesday, August 12th, which means parents' days of sleeping in a little extra are over. But don't get too sad. The Kangaroos are hopping right back into action too. Varsity football kicks off their first scrimmage on Thursday, August 13th, with August 28th being the first official game of the season, and it's also senior night, so bring your loudest cheers for our seniors as they kick things off. The humans have had their turn at Cherry Park Pool, and now we're turning it over to the dogs. Weatherford Wags is our annual end-of-season dog swim, giving local pups the chance to splash, swim, and show off their best doggy paddle. It's always a fun way to wrap up the pool season, so join us August 15th for the fun. And on August 29th, the Weatherford Animal Shelter is going all in for Clear the Shelter. Adoption fees will be completely waived, and there will be plenty of fun happening throughout the day. Come find your furry new best friend. And the Parker County Sheriff's Posse Ranch Rodeo is back September 11th and 12th with plenty of cowboy action, Native American performances, chuck wagon dinner, dancing, and my personal favorite, the Corgi Dash. I'm not sure who decided a ranch rodeo needed racing corgis, but I fully support that decision. And finally, August 20th is doing double duty. We've got Coffee with a Cop at the Weatherford Senior Center, while over at the library, our sanitation department takes over story times with a garbage truck in tow. And then in time for Labor Day, we've got First Monday Trade Days, September 4th through the 6th. So coffee, cups, garbage trucks, bargain hunting, I think we've covered all the bases here. But for more details, visit experienceweatherford.com.
All right, thank you for that, Aaron. Mr. Trotop, any items of community interest? City Council? All righty, let's bounce down to item 5. Presentations and proclamations. 5A is a proclamation in recognition of the 100th anniversary of Shulman Theaters. Rod White is going to present this. Council, City Manager. Let's go on down, and the Shulman family, if y'all come up, please.
Stand in front of it. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good. Okay. Proclamation, the City Council of Weatherford, Texas hereby recognizes Shulman Theaters. Whereas Shulman Theaters traces its roots in 1926 when the Shulman family established what would become one of Texas' longest-standing family-owned theater companies, beginning a legacy that has spanned 5 generations. And whereas for 100 years, the Schulman family has remained dedicated to providing quality family entertainment while growing from neighborhood theaters and drive-ins to the modern Film Alley and City Lights brands serving communities around Texas and beyond. Whereas the city of Weatherford is proud to be home to a Film Alley location where the Schulman family has created lasting memories for residents and visitors alike while contributing to city's quality of life and local economy. And whereas the Schulman family's century-long commitment to entrepreneurship, innovation, community involvement, and family entertainment exemplifies the values of a successful Texas family business and positively impacted generations of Texans, including the citizens of Weatherford. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 100th anniversary of Schulman Theaters, a remarkable milestone worthy of celebration and recognition. Now therefore, Paul Pascal, Mayor of City Weatherford, Texas, on behalf of the City Council and our citizens, do hereby recognize and congratulate Schulman Theaters and the century of entertainment, community partnership, and lasting contributions to the City of Weatherford and the state of Texas. It's from Paul Pascal. Thank you very much.
Take a picture?
This is all.
Okay. Awesome. You take a picture?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, sir, would you like to say anything?
I wrote a little something, if that's okay.
It's all you
I'll
now.
have to cheat, so I'll have to read from my phone. Do you mind holding that? Let me pull it up. So first, thank y'all very much, City Council and everybody, for the invite. Whenever James called, it was something that we were in a meeting, ironically, and we're like, you know what, that would be amazing. So thank you very much for just thinking of us. It's a huge milestone for us. We're super proud of it. But for y'all to think of it and reach out for that means a lot to us. So thank you. Businesses don't make it 100 years without a great community behind them. And we're proud to be a part of this community and its history. We're thankful to everyone who's helped us get here, our employees, customers, families, and community partners. We're excited about what the next 100 years will bring. So thank you again for recognizing this milestone and allowing us to celebrate it with you tonight. And we're proud to call Weatherford home.
All righty. Let's shift down to item 6, which is approval of the minutes. 6A is consider approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting held July 28th, 2026. Any discussion on this, council? Appears a motion for approval by Matt Tiskus. Rod White has provided the second. Thank you for that. Any questions or conversation before we call for a vote? Let's vote on it. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. And the minutes pass. Consent agenda items are item 7, and we have items A through D. Council, we can hear those as a body, but if you'd like to speak or talk about anything individually, let me know at this point, please. I'd be happy to entertain a motion if that's your pleasure.
I'll make a motion for the body.
Motion for the body made by Matt Tiskus. Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Zach Smith, thank you for that. Any questions or comments on items 7A through 7D? Hearing none, let's vote on them at this time. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. And consent agenda items pass. We'll now shift down to item 8 on the agenda, which is regular agenda items. 8A is a presentation of the city manager's fiscal year 27 proposed budget. We welcome Don Brooks.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Don Brooks, Assistant City Manager and CFO. So tonight we get to bring you a budget that we are genuinely proud of, one that holds the line on all the fundamentals that matter most in this community, even with real pressures that are coming from outside of our control. This didn't happen by accident. Our department heads and city management team shaped this budget at every step, and I want to give specific credit to our finance team. Ashley Esquivel, our budget manager, Grayson Whitman, our budget coordinator, and Lindsay Blaine, our finance director. The three of them brought the expertise and the attention to detail and the long hours that made this budget possible. So you will be hearing from the finance team for the majority of the budget process this year. But before I hand things over to them, I just wanted to take a few minutes to walk you through some of the unique circumstances that we navigated in this year's budget, and some of the rumblings that a lot of us have heard around the Metroplex. So as many of you have probably seen in the news, budget headlines from across the Metroplex have painted a pretty sobering picture this year. Cities like Dallas, Fort Worth, Azle, Mineral Wells, a lot of those, just to name a few, are facing significant budget shortfalls, and the stories that go along with those are familiar ones: property tax rate hikes, hiring freezes, and services scaled back. These aren't isolated stories, but they reflect real pressures that cities across Texas are under right now: slowing growth, rising costs, and a state legislator that keeps tightening what local governments can do with their budgets. So given everything the cities around us are dealing with, you might reasonably expect that Weatherford would be writing a similar headline this year, and I'm very proud to tell you that we are not. Our headline continues to be what it has been for years: Weatherford is financially sound. As we've earned that designation by making disciplined, deliberate choices every year. If we get complacent, that headline doesn't hold. We're bringing forward a balanced budget with a tax rate below the no new revenue rate while maintaining our services and staffing levels, even with costs that continue to climb. This isn't a one-year story either. This marks the 6th time in the last 7 years that Weatherford has proposed a property tax rate at or below the no new revenue rate. So I just want to spend a few minutes walking through some of our strategies before we get into the numbers themselves. So some of the strategies that we live by each and every day: the first is our revenue discipline. You've already heard the property tax piece of that, holding our rate at or below the no new revenue rate for 6 of the last 7 years, but we apply that same conservative approach to our other major revenue source, sales tax. We budget using a 3-year average minus the steepest 1-year decline, and even that, we rely on only 90% of that already conservative number for day-to-day operations. The remaining 10% is held back and used specifically for one-time items. The second is our spending discipline. Each year, our ongoing revenues exceed our ongoing expenditures. That's the real test as to whether a budget is structurally balanced, not just balanced on paper. When we do draw on fund balance, that money funds a specific one-time item, never day-to-day operations. This year, that's $3.2 million in one-time reserve use, all tied to a specific non-recurring costs. The FY27 budget proposes to utilize fund balance reserves to make a $1.5 million allocation to our self-insurance fund and another $1.7 million to purchase the apparatus for our brand new fire station, Fire Station 5. And third, our reserve policies. Even after this year's one-time draw, our reserves will stay well above our 120-day policy floor. That is a 90-day requirement and an additional 30-day preference. In fact, we're projecting 211 working days in the general fund at the end of FY27. That cushion protects our credit rating and gives us room to absorb the unexpected. Together, these 3 practices are what lets us stand here tonight and say we're financially sound, not by luck, but by design. Which brings me to the other side. There are specific pressures that we are designing around this year. The first is House Bill 9 and the business personal property tax exemption. This most recent legislative section, the legislature raised that exemption from $2,500 to $125,000 per business. That pulled roughly $68 million of taxable value off of our tax roll. The unintended consequence of this increased exemption is that residents would be required to subsidize the commercial tax roll with a tax increase to maintain the no new revenue rate. So for the 2026 property year, or FY27 fiscal year, new construction happened to offset that loss almost dollar for dollar. So we are able to relieve the additional burden from the residents by building our budget around a flat tax rate. The FY27 proposed budget was built using the same tax rate as FY26, 39.2246 cents per $100 of taxable value. That is less than our no new revenue rate. The second is a real decline in new construction. Elevated interest rates are discouraging people from moving and taking on new mortgages, which in turn has stalled new construction and is compounded by our own minimum lot width standards. In response, city staff is working on strategies to encourage quality development, but without steady growth in the city, the no new revenue rate will continue to increase. And finally, there are pressures from Austin. The governor and lieutenant governor have both proposed tax reform plans. The governor's plan specifically calls for placing expenditure caps directly on municipal budgets, lowering property tax appraisal caps to 3.5%, and further restricting our ability to use debt to fund major capital projects. Property taxes, expenditure caps, and debt are all active interim hearing topics right now, heading into this next session. And any one of these proposals, if adopted, would have a material impact on how cities like ours are able to budget going forward. We looked at these proposals a few months back for our city council retreat. If these expenditure caps had been in place 5 years ago, our budget today would be $9 million lower than it is right now. That $9 million is annual capacity that funds 13 additional police officers, 9 firefighters, our K-9, $3 million in annual street rehab, and it also funds all of the renovations that we do to our community assets, including Fire Station 1, Cherry Park, Love Street Splash Pad, the library, animal shelter, and our downtown quad improvements. Under a cap, none of that would have been available, and the question would not have been whether to keep pace with our community, but which of these to go without. So none of these are a reason to panic, not yet anyways, but we are actively monitoring all of these situations carefully. But this is exactly why the discipline I just walked you through matters. And with this context in place, I'm going to hand things over to Ashley to walk you through the details of the budget itself.
Thank you, Dawn, and welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Dawn, Mayor, members of council. So the FY27 proposed budget that is being presented tonight represents a strategic and well-balanced approach to municipal finance. The budget spans 26 separate funds, supports 17 city departments, and provides for 333 committed employees. It encompasses all municipal programs and services with the exception of electric and water utilities. We've developed a balanced financial plan that preserves and strengthens our existing service delivery. I am pleased to share that this budget continues to support Weatherford's financial stability. Our reserve levels will remain more than 120 days of operational funding. Total expenditures citywide are projected at $120.8 million. Our general fund is balanced with a marginal surplus. This financial plan demonstrates our continued commitment to delivering exceptional services to residents while safeguarding the city's long-term fiscal wellness. We're confident that this budget establishes a solid platform for Weatherford's ongoing development and success. So looking in the specifics of this budget, our general fund serves the city's main operating fund. This fund projects $61.4 million in revenues against $61.3 million in expenditures, resulting in a balanced budget with a marginal surplus of approximately $65,000. The FY27 general fund budget does propose the use of $3.2 million in fund balance reserves for one-time allocation. Our fund balance projections show that we'll end FY26 with $31.5 million, which is equivalent to 210 working days of operation. From this total, $13.6 million remains accessible beyond our 120-day reserve requirement. The daily operational cost for FY27 is projected at $149,911, representing an increase from previous year's figure of $143,907. I do want to draw your attention to our two major revenue sources. Sales tax, which is our highest, our principal revenue generator, is projected at $23.6 million for FY25. It does reflect a 7% growth from previous fiscal year. This estimate was developed using the established policy Dawn mentioned earlier, using 3-year average less the steepest 1-year decline, of which only uses 90% of annual estimate for operational expenses, and the remaining 10% is restricted to one-time cost. Next is our property tax, our second largest and most stable revenue source. Again, we are proposed rate of .392246, which is $100 of assessed value. This is equal to last year's rate and less than the no new revenue rate by 1 penny. This represents the 6th year in the past 7 that we have adopted or proposed a rate equal to or less than the no new revenue rate. This does uphold our position as having one of the most competitive tax rates regionally. As stated earlier in the presentation, due to the implementation of HB 9, property tax revenue is flat with previous year. Now looking at the general fund expenditures. They fall into 4 main categories: personnel costs representing 57% of our budget, which is followed by contractual services at 36%, supplies make up 5%, and the capital outlay makes up 2%. Looking at spending in the department, police and fire continue to make up the largest share of general fund expenditures, reflecting council's continued focus on public safety. I do want to highlight several key initiatives and investments that are featured in this year's budget. We'll start with personal enhancements. With the addition of a deputy court clerk, this position is completely supported by increased court-generated revenue. Also, allocations for canine dog replacement as Jack begins his transition to retirement sometime the next year. Next will be capital improvements, which include park enhancements, including the replacement of Love Street Park's playground, as well as the restroom renovation there. Sustained commitment of $3 million for street repair and improvements. $785,000 allocated for vehicle and equipment replacement. $827,000 allocated for replacement of public safety equipment such as cardiac monitors and self-contained breathing apparatus. The budget also includes allocations to continue advancement and completion of several major capital projects that are already in progress. Some of those being the McGrattan Park/skate park reconstruction, Holland Lake Park renovation, Development Services and Park Administration Office renovation, Phase 2 of animal shelter improvements, the construction of Fire Station 5, and few transportation initiatives which do include Lamar Street, Claremont Boulevard, and Kirkpatrick Drive. These represent just some of the key investments in the FY proposed budget. The complete budget document provides comprehensive details and all included initiatives. For the FY27 budget process, it will continue over the next couple of council meetings. On our August the 25th meeting, it will include the vote to formally propose the tax rate. We will then conduct a public hearing on the FY27 proposed budget. We will also at that time present the annual grant funding request. Then our next meeting on September the 8th, we will do a public hearing on the proposed tax rate. There will be the adoption of the FY27 budget, then the ratification of the adopted FY27 budget, and then the final adoption on the tax rate. The complete budget documents that you were all provided this evening does detail the information behind tonight's presentation more in depth. As you review the budget materials, please feel free to contact either Lindsay Blaine, our Finance Director, Don Brooks, our Assistant City Manager, CFO, or myself with any questions or clarifications that you may need. And at this time, we are available for any questions that you may have over the FY27 proposed budget.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions for Ms. Escosbell? Well, obviously, we'll see this again, but any questions initially for her or Don Brooks?
Mayor, just maybe a couple of comments, initial comments, not necessarily getting in the weeds. But if you'd go back to slide 10 there. We're going to talk about something on slide 11 too. You know, slide 10 kind of points out where all of your money goes and how much goes to where, right? And something Don said earlier, really, you did a great job presenting both of you, but something Don said earlier really stuck out to me, and that's that there are times in this community, or at least in what is reached by this community, we can be looked at as maybe a little less compassionate, but maybe more so running the city as if it's a business. And when Don was saying earlier, it really occurred to me, we run a tight budget. We have effective strategies on investments, and we track ROI on just about everything. One thing Don said was strategic growth in the commercial business that generates significant sales tax, ad valorem tax, and utility income has paid for the shortcomings that otherwise we would have been responsible for as citizens, or else we would have done what other communities around us are doing, and that is we would have to put at risk our biggest investment in our dollars, and that's police and fire. And what that looks like in other communities is less force out there protecting your community at certain times of the day. And so while people don't love seeing sometimes, all of the things that is coming to Weatherford, or that we're incentivizing to come to Weatherford, that we're pushing, to come to Weatherford, those strategic, successful transactions have created enough revenue to overcome the state changing the personal property tax. So I'm really thankful for that, and this is an eye-opener about why we do those things. So the budget's great so far. Y'all are doing a great job. If you don't mind, slide 11, one more click. I would like, Chief, if you could check, I want to make sure that Jack is fully vested and eligible for retirement. We need full ROI to Jack, too.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, our budget is down to the detail of making sure our K-9 has a good retirement. So I think we're taking care of every employee in the city of Weatherford. Great job, and thank you for pointing out that for 6 out of the last 7 years, we have adopted the no new revenue rate or below. I'll get it out eventually. But I think that's important for us to remember that we have remained fiscally conservative. And this budget allows us to continue to do that pending the adoption of the council. And so that's exciting. So thank you.
And just for clarification, the 1 year that we did not adopt the no new revenue rate, that was to support the construction of our brand new state-of-the-art long-term public safety building. And so that is not done recklessly. It was targeted specifically for the number one priority that our citizens have said matter to them, and that's public safety. So well done. Thank you so much. Anything else, council? All righty. Thank you for that. Let's shift back up here. And let's go to 8B, which is receive notice of publication of the tax year 2026 property tax rates. We welcome Lindsay Blaine. Welcome.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lindsay Blaine, Director of Finance. All right. Make sure you can hear me. The truth in taxation process requires the city to publish a notice of tax rates as the first step in the rate setting process for the upcoming fiscal year. Our rate setting process begins once the appraisal district completes the final assessed valuations and city staff determines the no new revenue rate and voter approval rates. These calculated rates must then be presented to the governing body and posted on the city's website, both of which we accomplished on August 7th. Tonight's agenda does not include voting on a proposed rate. This presentation serves solely to inform council and the public of the calculated rates. We will formally propose a tax rate during our August 25th council meeting with the public hearing and final adoption scheduled for September 8th. The 2026 no new revenue tax rate is 40.3187 cents per $100 of taxable value, representing an increase of approximately 1 penny from the 2025 adopted rate. The 2026 voter approval rate is 52.7534 cents per $100 of taxable value, which is an increase of approximately 2.5 cents from the 2025 voter approval rate. The FY27 budget was developed using the FY26 tax rate of 39.2246, holding the rate flat. For the 2026 tax year, while there was approximately $70.5 million in new improvement value added to our tax base, the overall tax base increased only $33.6 million, or 0.64% to $5.3 billion. There is an important piece behind these numbers. House Bill 9 raised the business personal property exemption from $2,500 to $125,000 per business, which pulled roughly $68 million off of our commercial tax roll. Left on its own, that loss would have shifted the burden to residents. A rate increase would have been required just to hold the no new revenue rate. New construction happened to offset that loss almost dollar for dollar. That's what allows us to bring forward a flat tax rate this year without asking residents to subsidize the commercial roll. Each homeowner's experience will differ based on appraised value, exemptions, and other factors. But for the average Weatherford home valued at $300,183, the proposed tax rate of 39.2246 cents, the estimated city tax on that home is $1,177.40. At the no new revenue rate, the bill would be $1,210.30, and at the voter approval rate, it would be $1,583.57. Holding the rate flat, therefore, saves the average homeowner about $33 compared with the no new revenue rate, and about $406 compared with the voter approval rate. The proposed rate remains flat at 39.2246 cents, approximately 1 cent below the no new revenue rate of 40.3187 cents, and well below the voter approval rate of 52.7534 cents. The only action tonight is to accept the rates. The next step in the tax rate setting process includes formally proposing a tax rate to you at our next city council meeting on August 25th and scheduling a public hearing and adoption of the rate on September 8th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
All right, great presentation. Did a great job on that. Any questions for Lindsay on this information? We sure appreciate it, Lindsay. Again, you did a great job. Staff is recommending acceptance of the proposed tax rate of 0.392246. Council, if that's your pleasure, or we can certainly have conversations if there's questions.
I'll make a motion to accept that rate.
Okay, 0.392246, Mr. Williams?
That's correct.
All right, motion by Luke Williams as stated, seconded by Matt Tiskus. Thank you for that. Opportunity for any questions or comments, Mayor Pro Tem.
Just for clarification, this is acceptance of publication of the rate, not adopting the rate. And so over the next several weeks, we'll be able to look at the budget and go from there.
We'll see this again. This is merely the acceptance. So, okay, I'm glad you pointed that out. Any other questions or clarifications on that item? All right, hearing none, let's vote on item 8B this time. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. It's okay. It's okay. I broke something last week, so we're okay. All righty, and that passes. Lindsay, Don, Ashley, y'all did a great job. Thank you for your work, and we look forward to hearing this again in 2 weeks. So let's shift down to item 8C, which is consider authorizing the city manager to execute Amendment 1 to the LaSalle Ranch Development Agreement. Chad Marbut.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So the item in front of you is Amendment 1 to the development agreement to a LaSalle Ranch development. Just to remind you where this property is located, you'll see it shaded there in orange to the northeast of Weatherford, just the other side of Lake Weatherford, bounded by Pearson Ranch and White Settlement Road. Now, some of the basics of the project, the acreage total is just under 1,000. They did choose to annex into the city of Weatherford back in May of 2024. The current development agreement date, it was executed June 10th of 2024, and then a PID was established in November of 24. That's a public improvement district. Now, the work that's been accomplished today by the development team in conjunction with the city staff has been the survey needed for on-site and off-site. They've done preliminary engineering and the analysis for what infrastructure is needed there. And then the key milestone is that they've achieved an approval of a wastewater permit to serve the site. So that's a TCEQ process, takes some time to complete. And so with that accomplishment, they are ready to start moving forward on the next steps for the development. Now, what Amendment 1 includes is primarily the city taking the lead on the off-site water design. I got a snapshot of the water master plan shown on the right-hand side. The LaSalle property is where you see the circles of 5. And so you'll see it shows a 16-inch water line extension. So what the city's choosing to do, and this is planning ahead, planning forward based on our master plans, is to oversize the water line going to LaSalle and even extend that up Pearson Ranch Road to a new elevated storage tank. What that allows us to do is serve any development in that area moving forward, again, as planned in our master plan. So taking the lead on this is important for us because we control what the design is and we benefit from it beyond what just LaSalle needs. But this is also important because the developer will reimburse the city for LaSalle's portion of that design, and they will do that within a 12-month period of us finishing design. The other stipulation to the amendment is that they have to start construction of the off-site water infrastructure within 18 months of us completing design, and that's a commitment that they've made to us. Again, it does take some time to get the PID established for them to issue the bonds for that, and so staff is comfortable with that. The last thing I'll point out, and it was a change to the agreement too, is to allow the PID bonds to fund 100% of eligible costs for the off-site water. We previously had a limitation of 80% on that. It was a request from the developer. We discussed with our bond counsel and looking at the industry, and it is standard to allow up to 100%. And so we've made that change as well. You know, there's a lot of discussion about ad valorem value and everything you just heard leading up to this. I'll point out again, and we knew this early on when we discussed LaSalle Ranch, but this is $1 billion value development. And currently in Weatherford, we have $5.3 billion worth of value. So it gives you kind of the gravity of what the value of this is. Around 800 units is planned. These are homes anywhere from $1 to $2.5 million in value each. So if approved tonight, staff is prepared to get in front of utility board for the design contract to begin design of this. And that's being drafted right now. So this is what's before you tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks for that information, Mr. Marbutt. Council, any questions on this amendment? One note about LaSalle Ranch, we've talked for years about the preservation of our Western heritage and what that means to our community, and this development is based on the equine-based platform, Western heritage, and all those elements that kind of align with what we're trying to do here as we grow to protect the things that are important to our community. That's the whole marketing plan of this development is Western heritage and equine platform, so that's exciting to me. They're moving forward with it.
Yes, sir.
Council, any questions on 8B? Staff's recommending approval of the amendment. 8C, excuse me. Discussion, questions? Yeah. Williams?
Make a motion for the approval of the amendment.
All right, motion for approval of the minute of 8C. Motion second provided by Mayor Pro Tem Zach Smith. But we still have an opportunity to discuss or ask questions if you need to. Anybody? Hearing none, let's vote on 8, Charlie, 8C. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens when you get the opportunity. And that item passes. Council, we'll shift down to item 9, which is future agenda items. City Council, do we have any future agenda items?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have one. It's maybe just maybe a one-time-a-year thing, and that was the Weatherford Economic Development Group had met last Friday. Great job, by the way. Our new chair, Councilmember Luke Williams. One thing that was brought up, Chandler Duncan had brought up, was they were looking for a report to come back to them, and Ken Davis had kind of backed this up as well. But they were looking for a report to come back to them so they could kind of check ROI on the restaurant incentive program. I listened to that meeting today. It sounded like staff had agreed to bring that back to them, and what that looks like is to allow the citizens to know what the investment that they have made, or this is the understanding I got of what it was. Feel free to step in here. The investment the citizens make in these restaurants, we can look back and show them with data the 1.5% sales tax and the ad valorem tax over a certain amount of time, be it potentially a year, has generated this much towards your investment, and we can kind of show the citizens how long it takes to pay those things off or pay them back in those ways. And so I believe staff had agreed to do that with them. All that I would ask is maybe when they make that presentation annually to that group, they could also do it to us at council as well. And certainly don't want to add too much to their plate, but a couple of others that I track at my business that maybe we could add in addition to that monetary piece was, you know, I'm only partially joking here, but we could even look at the square footage of the properties and know what that ROI is per square foot, which then alone is just a mark on a chart. But together, when we have more of these come up in the future, we can see literally if, you know, the internet goes crazy about chicken stores, right? We'll know if chicken stores in Parker County and specifically Weatherford, Texas, make more money per square foot than a pizza restaurant. And we can put that to bed very easily just by tracking that one thing, ROI per square foot for these restaurants as we come forward.
That are offered incentives.
Correct.
Okay, yes, sir, yes, sir. Okay, great, that's great. And then we track everything, ROI, like you talked about earlier, we look at everything, so that makes sense. Ms. Showtime, clear on that? That sound good?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, is what you remember here?
All spoken like we did in the meeting the other day. Yep.
Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem? Any other future agenda items? Pro Tem, do you have anything?
No, just a reminder, I think it was mentioned, but August 25th, one of the most important things that will happen from the council is proposing a tax rate. It'll be followed by September 8th when you'll adopt a tax rate and adopt a budget. So one of the most important things you'll do.
All righty. Hearing nothing else for item 9, future agenda items, we'll shift down to item 10, which is executive session items. We'll meet in the South Conference Room. We will be hearing items 10A, section 551072, which is deliberation regarding real property. 10B, section 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, Project Verde. And then item 10C is being pulled from the agenda at the request of staff and the applicant. So we'll be hearing items 10A, 10B in executive session. We're at recess at 6:42. We will reconvene back in this room to conclude our meeting. Thank you. All right, we're back in regular session, 7:23 PM. City Council will shift down to item 11, which is action on executive session items. Council, do you have any desire to consider action on item 10A?
I move that the city council approve the contract of sale for the city to purchase the approximate 1.21 acre tract of land described as Block 9, B.F. Draper Survey, abstract number 405, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract of sale and all closing related documents for the purchase of the property.
Motion on the floor by Matt Tiskus as described, second provided by Luke Williams. Discussion, conversations on item 10A before we call for a vote. Hearing none, let's vote on it. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. And that item passes. City Council, do you have any desire to take any action tonight on item 10B? Hearing none, we will shift on down to item 12, which is citizen comments on non-agenda items. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak on any item not covered in our agenda this evening, now's your opportunity. Citizen comments, non-agenda items. Any takers? Seeing none, Weatherford City Council stands adjourned at 7:24 PM. Thank you all for your service.